This is the SANDMARC Prolight Mini RGB, and this tiny light retails for around £72 or $99 on the SANDMARC store, depending on where you're from. And the Prolight Mini RGB has definitely been designed with the content creator in mind, and especially the content creator that's always on the go. This weighs only 86 grams and is about the size of a credit card. So before we get into the specifications and the actual main part of the review, let's just take a look at what you get inside the box. So inside the box you get the light, you get a diffuser, you get a USB-C charging cable, a cold shoe adapter, and a microfiber pouch. Now looking at the light itself, you've got an LCD panel which shows you all the settings that you have on your light. On the right hand side we have all these buttons so you can control the light, and we'll get into that in more detail later. On the bottom of the light we have a 1/4 inch thread mount for tripods or light stands or whatever you want to put this on, and then the USB-C input for charging. Being an RGB light, you can cycle through the entire RGB spectrum with a colour temp of 1000 to 10,000 Kelvin. The Prolight Mini has a CRI rating of 96+, and if you don't know what CRI means, it's basically the colour rating index. And to put this into sort of layman's terms, CRI is basically how accurate the colour is of something when you shine the light on it. So when you look at natural daylight, for example, and it's lighting up your room, that kind of colour accuracy is what we're trying to achieve with these kind of lights. A lot of lights have a strange tint, and sometimes that can make objects look the wrong colour. With a high CRI rating, you can expect to get accurate colours, and obviously that's very important if you're someone looking to light someone's face and you want to pick up accurate skin tones, or any kind of colour that you're working with. If you want the colour to look right on camera, a high CRI rating is important. If you get a light with a low colour rating index, you are going to be looking at getting more dull colours, which is obviously not what you want. And when it comes to things like skin tones, those very subtle colour changes in someone's face can sometimes be washed out. So it's important to get a light that's quite highly rated. If you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to leave a like, it really helps out the channel. And if you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell icon as well, and it will tell you when I upload something new. In terms of brightness, this light gives off around 600 lux at 0.5 meters, but I must admit this is not a very bright light. But for something this size, I think it's still pretty good. Bear in mind that this really isn't much bigger than a credit card. Obviously it's a little bit thicker, but this is tiny and it is aimed at mobile content creators. Even though this light may not be the brightest, it's still going to make a big difference if you're shooting in a dark environment. For example, I have a newer flapjack light here, which is lighting my face. Now if I turn that off and I just use this light, let's see how that looks. Now this video is being entirely lit, other than a bit of background light, by the SANDMARC Prolight Mini RGB, and as you can see, it actually looks pretty good. It definitely doesn't look unusable, I don't think. You could easily use this for your own YouTube videos or whatever content you make. In fact, let's actually switch off the light at the back, so I'm going to do that now. And you can see that this is what you're getting from the Prolight Mini RGB. Not bad at all. If this is all you had on you at the time and you really needed a light, it's pretty good. Now I've got to say, this is definitely one of the most compact lights I have ever tested, and I have tested a lot of RGB lights over my time here on YouTube. But what I really love about this light is that even though it's small, and even though it barely weighs anything, SANDMARC haven't compromised on the quality of this. This feels really well made. It's very solid, it's got a metal finish, it just feels really premium. I have another little mini light, which isn't RGB but it's bicolor, and you can immediately tell the difference between the SANDMARC light and the other brand. This one just has that premium finish, and I keep saying it, but it's true. Every time I have this in my hand, it just feels good. One thing that I will mention is that this front panel here does scratch quite easily, so I can see now why SANDMARC includes the carry pouch. But a few scratches on the front really shouldn't affect this in day-to-day use. One thing that really impressed me about this light was the battery life. So this is a 1500 mAh battery in here, and on the website, SANDMARC tell you you're going to get about 60 minutes on full brightness. I actually tested this because I wanted to see how accurate that was, kind of expecting it to be less. In the end, this went on for 1 hour and 55 minutes or around about that. Full brightness. I didn't use any of the buttons though, and I didn't change any of the modes, so that could add to the battery life. But in general, if you were to set this up and keep the same color on for the whole time, you could expect nearly 2 hours off a full battery, and that is really impressive because this thing is so small. Something else I like is that when you're actually charging this via USB-C, you do get the battery percentage as it's charging. So instead of it just being a battery indicator with some bars in it going up, you can actually see that it's, 95% charged, which is great. So on the right side of the light, we have all the main controls. The power button also acts as the mode switch button, and the set button enables you to cycle through settings such as hue, saturation, etc. And the plus and minus buttons are used as you'd expect to increase and decrease values. Something I really like about the Prolight Mini is that these options and menus are very easy to go through. I do have some RGB lights that the menu system actually is quite difficult to use with the few buttons that are on the side, especially when there's a lot of different options. So I do like the fact that this is very simple and easy to use. So there are only two main options on this light, your RGB mode and then your FX mode. The FX mode lets you cycle through 8 pretty useless effects. I will never use these, and I'm actually quite disappointed that there's no bicolor mode. That means that you can't just dial in a Kelvin value like I have, my light here is set to a certain Kelvin value. I can't just put that in on this light to have it match the same kind of white balance, which is kind of annoying actually. The only way to achieve a kind of white or yellow on this light is to do it through the hue dial. I'd have just loved to have seen a bicolor mode on this. For me, as someone who does a lot of video work and photography, I want to be able to synchronize my lights to the correct white balance. And if I can't use that, then it makes any kind of option of using this as a bicolor light basically impossible. That means that this is going to just be used as an RGB light for me. The obvious reason for this is that SANDMARC sell a bicolor version of the Prolight Mini, which has no RGB features and it is just a bicolor version. This bicolor version does have a slightly higher lux rating of 800 lux per 0.5 meters, so it will be slightly brighter than this light. I suppose SANDMARC wanted to keep these two products separate so that you could have one RGB light and one bicolor light. I'd have much rather just have had one light that could do both things. Maybe SANDMARC will release one in the future, and I hope they do. So you do get a diffuser with this, and I must admit this is probably one of the best diffusers I have ever used on an LED light. Most diffusers that come with LED lights, they sit too flush to the panel, which means that the light doesn't get a chance to properly diffuse. With this diffuser that you get from SANDMARC, it sits quite far away from that front panel, meaning that the light can bounce around properly inside and actually be diffused. So here's a few images of using this with and without the diffuser. Just bear in mind that when you do use the diffuser, you lose a little bit of brightness. So who is this light for? Well, it's definitely for the mobile content creator, someone who uses their phone or has a mirrorless camera. And although this may not be as bright as something like this, which is much brighter, look at the difference in size. We've got two very different products here, and I think something like this is essential for anybody making content. Besides this not having a bicolor mode, which I really wish it did, I do think this is worth getting if you're interested in a pocket RGB. I've never come across a light as small and as well made as this, and that's from testing many different RGBs. So SANDMARC, this gets the thumbs up from me, but please maybe consider releasing one that has bicolor and RGB in the future. I think many people will just buy that even if it's a bit more expensive. It'll just be so much more convenient having it in one light rather than having to buy two. So that's pretty much it for my review of the SANDMARC Prolight Mini RGB. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, be sure to leave a like as it really helps out with the channel. If you have any comments or questions about the product, feel free to leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to see more from me, subscribe and hit that little bell icon and it will tell you when I upload something new. And hopefully I'll see you next time.